The situation at Bethesda is far worse than most people know. Sure, we know that Bethesda is in general talentless. The Todd Howard is an incapable leader and far past his prime to lead a company. Emil Paglarino is such a bad writer, he probably can't even put two words correctly together. And yet the situation is much more dire than that. And it becomes abundantly clear when you actually look at the history what Bethesda has done with the things that currently exist. A great example of this is obviously Fallout 76, where with every even minor patch, there are currently introduced new bugs. The game is at such a state of disrepair at this point that is more close to what it was when it launched, a completely buggy and playable mess that is, than what it even was 2 years after release, which still wasn't great, but at least it had some bugs less. And now, the most easiest way to just look at how unwilling and incapable Bethesda is at coding, because the general problems all stem from coding. It seems like there are no people at Bethesda who even understand basic principles of coding and game design. And nothing shows that, honestly, better than what is currently happening with the Oblivion remaster.
Being a Bethesda fan is rough. Don't get me wrong, they've made some of the best games of all time, but in the last decade or so, it's been harder and harder to defend some of the decisions they've made.
Probably the most least intrusive bug in 76 existence.
Why did you not optimize this game for PC?
We did. It's running great. It is a next-gen PC game. Upgrade your PC.
Games like Fallout 76 and Starfield, while they have their fans, have missed the mark for a ton of their core player base. Wins are hard to come by, so when the Oblivion remake was shadow dropped on a random Tuesday, it felt like Christmas in April. I bought it day one and put a ton of hours into it, even making a video you can watch here. Then, the game kinda tapered off. Player numbers dropped, hype died down, and the game sort of exited out of popular culture. Was this game actually worthy of all the praise, or did everyone get caught up in the hype?
So here's the thing. Everyone who played this game will tell you exactly the same thing. It's good. It is the best Bethesda game released in the past, probably decade, honestly. If we don't count the 275,000 Skyrim Anniversary Edition. Oh wait, they just dropped another one. Whatever, plus one number. But the problems are the same. Bethesda, most likely for two main reasons. One, hate and spite, because they hate the fact that people are just pointing out that the old Bethesda games were better. And two, incompetence. Sheer incompetence. You can see it in Fallout 76, you can see it in Starfield. Starfield's probably the funniest example of this, where every bug that Bethesda fixes actually unironically roughly introduces two new bugs, and chances are the bug that they claim that they fixed, they haven't fixed. Yes, I'm not kidding when I say that the situation at Bethesda is far worse when you get past the memes, because they really don't have anyone who properly understands what they're doing. Either this is just a general lack of coding skill, or this is the fact that no one understands the engine that they're using. Be it whichever, the situation is not good. And the Oblivion remaster is fully showing this. There have been no bug fixes, there have been no improvements. The game that everyone loved at launch is now suffering from the fact that it's just been pretty much left as abandonware almost at this point. Other than two updates where Bethesda fixed maybe 3 or 4 bugs, there has been nothing. Bethesda has done nothing. And at this point, obviously, the question is, what do the Bethesda devs even get paid for, honestly? Because it seems like they work at literally nothing.
Now that we're exactly 1 year removed, what did Oblivion get right? And more importantly, what did it get wrong? Now as a whole, I think the remake has a lot of great elements, and my first one here doesn't actually have anything to do with the game itself. Rather than following Microsoft's trend of $70 or even $80 first-party titles, Oblivion launched at a relatively modest price of $50. They could have easily charged $70 and it still would have sold like crazy, but they decided to price
I think they were desperate. When a AAA company puts a low price on a AAA game, you know they're desperate.
it fairly for what you get, and I respect it. As for the game itself, I think the remake captures the original feel of Oblivion pretty well. It's hard to explain just how weird Oblivion feels. Like, I can't just show you this and expect you to fully comprehend the gameplay experience. But as a whole, it's Oblivion. What initially sold me were the absolutely iconic NPCs. I was really worried that the remaster would somehow remove the charm of these little melted plastic looking fuckers, but they're just as beautiful as ever. On the inside. It seems like they almost embraced the weird jankiness of the original game.
I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again. I heard that thieves broke
They left this in.
into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night.
So many of the OG animations are still in the game, and it's an extremely weird experience to see these high-res NPCs act like it's 2007.
Have you heard? Someone's been murdered.
This was 100% the right call, by the way. It's really the soul of the game. Speaking of the visuals, we need to talk about the graphics. Now, this is a remaster of a game nearly 20 years later, so no shit, they look better. But it's more than that. The game is genuinely one of the most impressive looking titles out there, especially for such a big open world. The game is so beautiful, and every area has its own unique look to it. For me though, the Shivering Isles takes the crown as the best looking location
That's a reference.
in the game. Speaking of Shivering Isles, the full DLC is playable, along with the others released for the game. Knights of the Nine and Shivering Isles are the two biggest DLC, but those aren't the only ones to be pulled over. Oblivion had other smaller DLC released for it, stuff like
Shivering Isles is wildly considered one of the best DLCs of any game of all time, by the way.
player homes and a new quest or two. And all of this is included in the remaster for no extra charge. All of this is omitting the fact that the game itself is really good. Like, the original Oblivion is my favorite Elder Scrolls, maybe even my favorite Bethesda game. Hey, that guy likes Oblivion, am I right? I want to pause for a second and talk about the sponsor of today's video. Me.
Oh.
Channel memberships are back, and better than ever. I'm going to keep it short, there are a ton of great perks, and it's the #1 way to help the channel out. Thank you.
Like and subscribe, takes less than a second. Do it now, like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and I thank you if you do it. Because it does help a lot, by the way. You really do have power to make an impact. So thank you for everyone who does it. Takes less than a second, so do it.
The fact that the remaster doesn't change a whole lot about the base game is a bigger win than it seems. Sadly though, the remaster isn't perfect.
People got pissed when Bethesda changed things. And the one thing that Bethesda tried to change was obviously the female and male genders to whatever, to body type A and body type B. People hated it. Rightfully so, obviously, and people expressed themselves. And that is one of the very few things that that Bethesda did here. And I think this actually served a really great purpose of just pissing Bethesda off. Imagine you're doing a remake of an old game that Todd Howard literally has spent years trying to tell people, oh, you wouldn't like the old stuff actually, Chud. Yeah, well, you wouldn't like it. You just remembered it fondly because you were a kid, idiot. So, we're not going to remake it, and voila, remade, people absolutely love it. This is one of the things that proved Bethesda doesn't have it anymore. The fact that people love the old stuff, and everything where Bethesda tried to put their own hand in the cookie jar, aka body type A, body type B, people hated it. People absolutely loathed it. Now, granted, Bethesda did a lot more than just that, honestly. They also did do a lot of censorship in the game. A lot of armors got extremely censored, but people don't know about that one. But yes, a lot of things got censored there, especially when it comes to armor. But that's something people don't remember that much, so, it's a different story. And Todd Howard spent so much trying to create this web of lies in that you would not like this game, and everyone did. And it all went crumbling down, and it proved that modern Bethesda is just not as good as the old one. They, whatever it is, the modern Bethesda lost it and gained activism instead, which is not a good trade at all.
So, as much as a Bethesda fanboy loser I might seem, I do have my fair share of criticisms with the game. We'll start with easily my biggest issue with the game.
Lag? Ah! Oh, that scared
Performance.
me.
The game is just so poorly optimized, and it runs like shit. I know a lot of you are going to say,
Well, it's a
And still does.
Bethesda game, haha.
but no, I'm not putting up with that. The Starfield ran perfectly for me day one. Now I don't have some monster gaming rig, but I shouldn't have to run modern games on low to get anything north of 60 frames per second. In fact, there were a ton of people with better machines than I struggling as well. The suspected cause
He can probably resell his PC at this point because of the RAM prices and make money.
of this is Unreal Engine 5, which is known to have more than a few optimization problems. They did release a few patches aiming to fix it, but changes
Actually, this is not true. We know that Unreal Engine 5 is actually extremely good for optimization. And the proof of that is Arc Raiders. That thing is made on Unreal Engine 5. And that thing can run on a potato on 200 FPS. And I'm not kidding about the potato part. And it probably can get more FPS. Most companies are just extremely bad at their jobs. That's the reality. That's why Unreal Engine 5 is getting a bad rep. Because Ubisoft, Microsoft, Betehsda, all of these companies are incapable of, getting people who are not autistic to work for them. Or activists, which is a form of autism.
were minimal. Apparently performance is better on console for reasons, but that's still just an example of the horrible optimization in modern gaming. A major reason behind this problem is apparently the baked-in lumen handling the game's lighting, and you can't turn it off. Luckily, there are mods that do it for you, but I shouldn't have to mod my games in order to make them. God
Mods always save everything, huh?
damn it. Another way the Oblivion remake drops the ball is in the art direction department. Now, I already said the visuals are stunning. I mean, it's true, but doesn't it seem like a part of Oblivion's soul is gone now? I'm not even trying to pull an old thing good, new thing bad here. I genuinely think there's a strong argument to be made here. Look at the colors, for example. OG has such deep, vibrant colors, almost like they were hand-painted to fit the world. Compare it to the remake, which has a much more muted color palette. And hey, it fits the realistic vibe they were going for, but to me, that's just not Oblivion. It's supposed to be this colorful, rich open world, but instead it ends up looking like one of those, this is how graphics will look in 2014 YouTube videos. The last negative about the game is, it's almost too faithful to the original. Now, I love Oblivion, but there are certain things about it that haven't aged that well. It's easy to look past these in the original. Less so in this flashy remake. Leveling, enemy scaling, combat, UI, all things that range from clunky to major annoyances, and they're still present like it's 2000.
Actually, all of that is Skyrim. Now, they changed pretty much all of this to Skyrim, by the way.
2006 all over again. It brings up the question, how faithful should a remake be? I praised it earlier for being so accurate, yet I'm giving it flack for the same reason. There has to be a middle ground somewhere, but importing these dated mechanics aren't it. As an Oblivion Chad myself, these are just accepted parts of the experience for me. But I could see this turning new players away hard. I haven't even mentioned the lack of dedicated mod support, which brings us nicely to... Here we are a year later. What is the state of Oblivion Remastered? The last update the game received was in July of last year, and that's been it. Now for a single player game, this isn't necessarily a big deal. No one was expecting a live service experience with new content added post-launch. However, like I went over earlier, the game still has a ton of technical problems. From the outside looking in, it seems like the game has been abandoned. It's really a shame, because the game is so great, but it will seemingly be forever tainted by these glaring issues. Now, this is a Bethesda game, which usually have the reputation on dedicated mod support, fixing most issues as well as adding stellar new content. So, how is the mod support 1 year later? Honestly, pretty respectable. Obviously nowhere near Skyrim's or even the original Oblivion, but there's a pretty decent mod library here, with new ones being added every day. A bulk of the most popular mods seek out to help the game run better, and they do a pretty good job at actually making it playable in more low-end PCs. There's a pretty credible rumor hinting at a Fallout 3 remake coming next year, and while we know very little about it, the obvious question is, will it suffer from the same mistakes as Oblivion? Is it going
Yes. There is nothing that can save the current state of Bethesda. And I mean, I think Oblivion is probably a story where they succeeded more than failed. And Fallout 3 is probably not going to be the same in that sense, because Fallout 3 requires a lot more a different type of optimization. Anyway, that was Happy Ghost Sunday. 10 out of 10. Bye.